Hello and welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 classic Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like if you do like it. So this is a review for Booby Hatched, released in 1944. It's the 443rd in the series and it's directed by Frank Tashlin. You can find this beautiful restoration on the Looney Tunes Golden Collection Volume 4 DVD set. A high definition version is out there. At the time of this recording, it's not on physical media yet, but hopefully one day it will be. Now, it is under copyright, so unless Warner Brothers decide to put this short on YouTube themselves, I can't play the full cartoon here. But in case you haven't seen this one, as I feel this one is one of the lesser known Tashlin shorts, but I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments if you saw this one often. But in this one, during a snowstorm, a mother duck is trying to hatch some eggs. All but one, who is still in his shell sticking out, end up hatching. They all go for a swim, but that last hatchling just wants to keep warm, so he keeps looking for a warm place to be. And he eventually encounters the same wolf, I believe, from I Got Plenty of Mutton, or at least they just repeated the same design, and nothing wrong with that either. So first up, you're going to hear some highlights from the original audio commentary I did before I had to take that down, and that's with my good friend Austin Kelly, who is a Frank Tashlin expert. And after that, I'll go through a few things that I missed, including some references. So without further ado, let's get into it. And I have with me, who else? My good friend and Tashlin expert, Austin Kelly. Say hi.
Hi. I'm usually very glad to be here for most of Tashlin's cartoons, but I gotta say, I wasn't too impressed with this one. For reasons I'll get into later, but this cartoon was scripted in the summer of 1943, July, and released October 1944, 15 months later.
But these backgrounds are really nice, though, I gotta say. And this shot here, too. Really cinematic.
Oh, yeah. That reminds me, I want to talk about that shot for a minute. There's a shot in Cracked Ice, which is one of my favorite Tashlin cartoons, where there's a magnet falling from the sky, and it shoots from the clouds straight to the water. And there's a similar shot where there's no held background. It's the animator actually drawing the scenery each time, every frame. And it's more effort than Tashlin should have put in the scene, but it just makes the cartoon and the shot so much more enjoyable, the fact that he put that extra work into it, and that shot and this shot in Booby Hatched, I mean, they're a great showcase of Tashlin's pushing the envelope type approach to making these cinematic cartoons. Now, I do want to say, before we get any deeper into this, the reason I wasn't so impressed with this cartoon, and I don't think it was very memorable, because it isn't too outright cinematic or Tashlin-esque, if you will, because it feels like Tashlin trying to just do a typical run-of-the-mill Warner short, with your usual gags and your usual energy, without implementing his own wonderful style. And obviously, when you go against what the crowd is doing and you do your own stuff, it's the wonderful result, like Tashlin's stuff in his own cinematic style. But he wasn't doing that here. It feels very typical Warner's, and it could have been done by any director, I'm sorry to say, except for that one wonderful shot with the animated background. I wasn't too impressed with this cartoon.
Now, is this the same wolf from I Got Plenty of Mutton? Or, well, maybe not as thin, maybe it's a different one.
Well, it's interesting because it's the same design from that cartoon. And what's interesting also is that another Tashlin cartoon from the same year, Brother Brat, was very similar. There was a cat in that cartoon that had a very similar design, if not the exact same design, from the cat in the Freeling cartoon from the year before called Hiss and Makeup. I'm wondering why there was so much reuse in design around this time, especially in the Tashlin cartoons. I mean, I would assume it would have something to do with the war and limited time and limited resources, but, I mean, I'm honestly not sure. Information lost to time, I suppose.
You can sort of predict the ending when it comes to the egg, but that's weird. The mother was holding the egg. You can clearly see the feet through the egg, but now it's a doorknob. It's really bizarre.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say I was pretty disappointed by it. It's not one of Tashlin's best.
Yeah, I agree, but hey, it's still watchable, and it's still a decent short. So those were the highlights of the original commentary. So before we go through the short itself, just a few bits of trivia that were missed. So that unhatched egg, the name Robespierre, I was trying to figure out where that came from, and sure enough, it's named after Maximilien Francois Robespierre, who was a figure of the French Revolution, and apparently he originated the expression, "Omelets are not made without breaking a few eggs." So rather clever. I mean, you don't have to know that to enjoy this short, but yeah, it's rather deep cut there. The title itself, and this should be obvious, but for the few that aren't aware, it's a play on the two phrases. One is a booby hatch, which is a small hatch giving access to a ladder from a weather deck of a vessel on a ship, and booby trapped, which is hiding something dangerous in somewhere that looks safe. So it's just a combination of both of those. And in a fairly recent article by my good friend Devin Baxter, who's an animation researcher and restorer, he notes in an article that according to cue sheets compiled by Daniel Goldmark, it confirms that the song that would have played over the original titles, which I sadly lost at the time of this recording, was She Broke My Heart in Three Places, and that's a song that was used actually in a few Clampett shorts as well. So let's take a look at this short from start to finish, and right away we are continuing what Tashlin has been doing for quite a while now, and that's really setting things up. In fact, he takes just about half the short just to do the setup, really taking his time and playing on the gags in the beginning, which revolve around this mother duck trying to keep warm, and even the music is really moody in that scene as well, with the opening shot as we pan across the farmyard and we zoom in through the window, which is something that Orson Welles did in Citizen Kane, now that I think about it. Did Tashlin watch that and get inspired for this? I don't know, but it definitely reminded me of that nonetheless. So, yeah, we see that it's in December, just before New Year, in fact, according to that calendar, and yeah, this poor mother duck is cold. Now, in this short, there are plenty of music cues which will be displayed in this review, but one of the biggest eye-rolling ones here has to be Am I Blue? That is played when the eggs literally turn blue because they're cold. Ha ha. Starling, what are we going to do with you? That is just, I don't know whether to laugh or be disgusted at that, to be honest. It's just one of those things. So the mother duck is naturally concerned about the eggs, so she goes to what's called an egg candler. So that's a device, and a similar technique's used today, but it's essentially a device where a light would shine through to check the freshness of the egg, and sure enough, Tashlin plays it up for laughs here, where it starts off rather serious. She's making sure that they're keeping warm, and they've got little heaters inside the eggs and all that sort of stuff. And when one of them sneezes, you hear the mother duck. She's voiced by Sarah Berner in this short, and that's from Keith Scott's wonderful Cartoon Voices book. But Tashlin plays it for laughs with the other eggs, including one that's even skiing and even crash lands to the point where the shell actually cracks. Weird gag, but it's funny, especially Mother Duck's reaction here. And we continue to hear Am I Blue, where we see a very quick gag where she organizes her eggs like you would on a pool table, which it's like a very quick gag that just comes and goes. It's like, okay, sure. Then we see that she's checking her temperature, which I don't really know why she needs to. It is cold, but you see a thing saying cold as a brass monkey, and that is based off of the saying to freeze the balls of a brass monkey, which means it's very cold. It's a very old reference, believed to be from the 19th century. So Mother Duck then decides that she's going to heat herself up to pretty much boiling point from what we see here. And this bit of animation's incredible. So she's straining, pushing. She even gets rid of her scarf and sweating all over the place. It's absolutely incredible. So she's running, and we've got this massive build-up, all for one punchline, with all of the hatchlings popping out saying,
"Don't do it! We'll come out."
Love it. So now all of a sudden, Mother Duck wants to take the hatchlings out for a swim, which is kind of weird because she was incredibly cold before, but now she's apparently not. But whatever, I know, cartoon logic, we got to move the story along, I know. But we hear a wonderful rendition of the Toy Trumpet from Raymond Scott, and they all march along.
Hey, where is everybody?
And even one that hasn't quite fully hatched yet, which I thought was a nice little touch here. It's really only now that we finally get the proper setup here that's all going to revolve around this not fully hatched duckling named Robespierre. And we continue with this wonderful rendition of the toy trumpet, and we even see a few wonderful angles as all the other ducklings walk along, and sure enough, we got a premise now. This hatchling is too cold. So the hatchling rushes back to the egg candler. He has the right idea. There's a flame here, why not get warm? But he goes out, and he mentions,
Darn this fuel oil shortage.
because this short was released during World War II, there was gas rationing around that time, so it makes complete sense why they would run out of gas or petrol, or whatever you want to call it, or oil for these sort of things, because, yeah, everything was rationed, including other things like coffee and sugar and other things of that nature. And in a rather cheeky joke, clearly trying to not get censored here, but the hatchling sets it up saying,
I just gotta find someone to sit on me. Someone who has a nice, warm disposition.
so we all know what he really wants to say, but yeah, the Hays Code might have a bit of a problem if he said bottom or ass or whatever would have been appropriate at the time. So the initial swim is done. Mother Duck is counting all the ducklings and naming them, and that's how we know that the missing duck is named Robespierre, because she yells out the name as she's frantically looking for him. But I like the rendition of the toy trumpet here, where it sounds a bit more frantic, so...
Robespierre!
Good to see that Starling liked to play around with Raymond Scott's music, but the animation's great, especially her franticness when she's counting her fingers, she's pushing aside the other hatchlings to find Robespierre, and she's yelling and yelling his name. But there's one moment where she yells underwater, and I was listening to her going, wait a minute, is that Mel Blanc doing that? Sure enough, according to Keith Scott's book, it's Mel Blanc doing that one little part for Mother Duck. Oh, and by the way, he does all the other voices in this short. And the pace really picks up to the point where Tashlin's even reusing what he did in the previous Daffy short, where she'll be running and it will just be literal smears and nothing more. So she knocks herself out on the tree, she gets revived by the other hatchlings, and the movements just get more frantic and frantic and frantic, in stark contrast to what was done in the very beginning. And finally, after a very long and frantic search, and if I'm being honest, I do think that scene went on a little bit too long. I know what Tashlin was trying to do there, but I do have to unfortunately be a little bit critical of it. Is it the worst thing in the world? Of course not, but anyway, moving on, she finally notices footprints and they lead to the nearby forest as we get into a really bad snowstorm. And in a scene which is kind of reminiscent of what Tex Avery used to do, the snowstorm literally stops and Robespierre breaks the fourth wall and says, "This is the saddest part of the picture, folks." Along with the wolf holding up that sign, of course. He ain't whistling Dixie. Well, what other sign is he going to put up, right?
Believe me, this is the saddest part of the picture, folks.
So Robespierre ends up going into a cave. Of course you hear the Fingles cave theme, right? If you're familiar with those Inky shorts, of course, you already know that theme pretty well, right?
Yippee! It's Mama! With a fur coat yet!
But I just love this bear's how he's just laying there and he just goes, "So I laid an egg."
So I laid an egg.
And that's not the first time you actually hear that in a Looney Tunes short. Now, Tashlin has been known for doing a lot of quick cuts over his directing career, and in the next part, it's quite interesting. So you got the wolf entering in, he's sort of feeling his way, trying to find this egg. How he knows that the egg is in there, I don't know, but whatever. And then we briefly see the mother duck just walking, and we hear some patriotic music, but it only goes for like 2 seconds, and then we're back into the cave. So, did we actually need that little snippet of a scene? Maybe not, but it's the sort of thing that Tashlin did on a regular basis. But as it turns out, the wolf has a stick of dynamite, and in a nice bit of cartoon logic, it doesn't really blow up the egg or blow up the bear, but whatever, right? And again, just the reaction of the bear just thinks that it's all a dream and that's it. But yeah, this is probably my favorite part of the short, if I'm being completely honest.
Dreams like this worry me, you know.
And then we get a nice bit of tit for tat, and beautifully timed too, I might add, and it reminds me of Three Stooges with the eye poking, of course. It's perfectly timed to the music, and I wonder if Chuck Jones saw this and got inspired later on, because there's quite a few shorts where he does a similar tit-for-tat situation, and he's done a few shorts where things just build up and up and up, and so did Tex Avery. Tashlin didn't need to do that here, of course, but it works pretty well for what it is, and we end up with the fact that, oh no, it's a doorknob. And that's a similar gag to what Clamper did in one of his shorts, where Daffy is sitting on a doorknob instead of an egg. And again, Tashlin's playing with time here, so we had a really fast scene with the tit-for-tat, then it slows right down again where you got this wolf. I just like how he has to wear a chef's hat. I mean, I don't know about you, but when I'm cooking something, I don't wear a chef's hat. It's always funny when they do it in the cartoons like this, but anyway. So he's cooking and it's all casual, here's a knock at the door, walks over, all calmly, and then bang, with the speeds built up again, it's the mother duck saying, "Roast beer!" When she notices that the egg is inside the actual soup. Well, I'm assuming it's soup anyway. And we end here with a beautiful little twist where the egg actually hatches and Rossbier says, "Oh, Ma, just when I was getting warm." So he's pretty much having like a bath time here, and we end right there. We don't need to know what happens next. It's a perfectly fine punchline at the very end. Now, I'll admit, this is not one of my favorite Tashlin shorts. It's not a bad one by any means. It's quite a good short, very well executed, and quite funny at times. But for whatever reason, I don't connect to this one as much as some of the other Tashlin shorts, whether it's from the 30s or the 40s. But that said, if you have an opportunity to watch this short, definitely do so. This one gets, I'd say, an 8.5 out of 10. It's very well executed, and it is funny, but it's not a go-to one for me. That's why I'm not rating it higher like some of the other Tashlin entries. But that will do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and until next time, take care.